The first rudimentary case of editing came about when a photographer named Edward Muybridge, using 15 separate cameras, took a series of photographs of a horse galloping and then cut these pictures together so that when they were played, the horse would appear to move. He took hundreds of thousands of photographs of various things in motion, such as other animals or even people, which he displayed in lectures using a device he invented called the Zupraxoscope that displayed these large number of images in rapid succession, giving them the illusion of motion. Towards the end of the 1800s, the film camera was invented, which used a long strip of photographic negatives called film reel and rapidly exposed one image at a time in sequence. These images could then be played back rapidly to create the illusion of motion through the use of a projector. The first films displayed using this technology were very simplistic in the sense that the camera would always remain in a fixed angle or position, and the events would play out on screen in the order it was filmed. This rudimentary style of film was used for a while before a man by the name of George Miele began to realise that there was no need to replay the film at the exact same time and speed, and in the same sequence that it was filmed. He began to experiment with jumping forwards in time to make objects appear and disappear, and soon it was discovered that putting two shots next to each other in sequence would create a logical connection between those shots in a viewer's mind, and so instead of recording an entire movie in strict chronological order, relative to the story, it was discovered that scenes could be filmed at different times and locations and then combined later in a process that became known as editing. The advent of the videotape opened up a huge avenue in film production, giving creators the advantage of reusing tapes and rewriting the film on them, whereas the tape's older brother, the film reel, could not be recorded over, and once it was exposed, that was it, the footage was stuck there. However, editing these new videotapes posed a great problem for broadcasters and filmmakers alike, as there was no real way to efficiently edit the tapes yet, and thus editors had to use microscopes to aid them in cutting the tapes, because the cuts had to be so incredibly precise as to not ruin the video signal. Due to this, not much editing was done this way until technology for editing these tapes was advanced. Eventually, specific technology was made to aid filmmakers in the editing of these tapes, and thus machines that could pause, play, record from one videotape to another without the need to physically cut the tape were created.
John, could you tell us what you're doing now?
Well, Pete, I'm just about to make a splice on a commercial we just finished shooting.
See? In line with that, Don, I've heard a lot of conflicting stories about editing videotape. Could you tell me if it's practical now? I mean foolproof and smooth and precise.
Well, Pete, editing now is a common and practical device for videotape production. We make splices all the time. They're just as smooth as a live camera cut or even a film splice.
This allowed for fully electronic editing, which was easier, faster, and less error-prone. And that's actually how video editing was done for decades until we entered the computer age. The dawn of the computer age brought about a rapid increase in the development of technology, one of these being a piece of non-linear editing software named the Avid One. The software itself had a myriad of limitations ranging from its low resolutions, choppy frame rates, and content length limits, to name a few, but it was a pioneer in the industry, giving filmmakers an immense amount of freedom when it came to the editing of footage, and brought about the subsequent mass of non-linear editing software we can choose from today. Films today no longer consist of a few rudimentary cuts between a handful of angles, but instead incorporate a vast number of techniques that help to create a variety of effects thanks to the advancement of this non-linear editing software. Thanks to these software, films are far more complex in their construction compared to their old counterparts of the 18 and 1900s.